It's February, so let's talk about love. Today I'm going to talk about some of my favorite book couples and relationships. To start it off, this isn't a couple because there are more than two people involved. It's actually a throuple from To Be Taught If Fortunate by Becky Chambers, Ariadne, Elena, and Jack. This was the first book I've read with a polyamorous relationship involved, and it was a breath of fresh air. At no point is the relationship used as a source for drama. There's no unnecessary jealousy or miscommunication, and it's been a little bit since I read the book, and I don't physically have it with me right now to fact check this, but if I recall correctly, I think Elena also has a wife back on Earth. Sorry if I'm misremembering. But the relationship makes sense for the setting our characters exist in. They are scientists and explorers on a long haul mission in space that is going to take decades of their lives to complete, during which time this quaint crew of four people are the only human interactions they're going to have. It only makes sense that romance and sex blossom in this environment, as it is part of emotional and mental well being. As for the fourth crew member, Chakandi, who is asexual and not interested in having a romantic or sexual relationship with the others, still plays an important part in companionship with the rest of the crew. I like that his character was included. It shows how optional the way this crew functions is, and having that choice to either participate or not, and showing that even if you aren't participating, you still matter to the crew as a friend, makes the relationship all the more beautiful. From Record of a Spaceborne Few by Becky Chambers. Isabel and Tamsin. 3 words. Elder Space Lesbians. There's always something beautiful about older LGBT people, particularly in real life, but also it tends to be rare in fiction. Young people aren't the only LGBT people that exist. In fact, it paints a weird image when that's the only rep, as if it's something trendy only young people do, or a phase that people grow out of when they're older. In a future set sci-fi like Record of a Spaceborne Few, it's important to have this elder representation to show how normalized and accepted same-sex relationships are. Besides just the concept, I love both of these characters. As elders, they are wise and knowledgeable in some aspects, but what's particularly important about both of them is they continue to have a youthful energy. Tamsin and Isabel are still very much in love. One fun chapter explores a date night between them where they take a fun roller coaster-esque shuttle ride around their space station. It's established in the book that this sort of thrill ride is popular among young courting teens. And so the contrast of these Greyan lesbians participating and enjoying something that isn't intended for their age group is particularly beautiful. Regardless of their youthful energy, both characters show hints of age. Tamsin remarks on her aching knees and sometimes needs to sit down to rest. I also like how Tamsin pulls the age card several times throughout the book, pretending she is napping or that she doesn't hear someone. It really adds to her personality and relays her sense of humor. Overall, the effect of their presence as characters and as a couple leaves me optimistic about the future. From Not on Fire, Only Dying by Susan Rookheiser. Marco and Lola. For two people who lead unwholesome lives, their romance is nothing but wholesome, and I love that contrast. We got Marco, who is an ex-convict and a drug dealer. He's an intimidating-looking guy. And Lola, who is a pill-hoarding addict, and whose memory is shaky at best. Marco's character is wonderful because he just chugs respect women juice every morning. For a character who is tough and maybe even a macho man type, he really has a sensitive side that shows when it comes to interacting with women. And that sort of characterization is almost unexpected, but really rounds out his character. He's the type of guy who has gone to prison before for battery and assault because he beat up a guy who was abusing his own girlfriend, and it's clear that Marco, 10 out of 10, would do it again, especially for the woman he loves. Lola, who who he was infatuated with even before he went to prison and continues to be after his release. Lola's character relays something women commonly feel but isn't well represented in media. She doesn't feel worthy of love and consistently gravitates towards lovers who aren't going to treat her right. She shies away from Marco's initial affections because she doesn't feel worthy of him. And it's Marco's sensitivity towards her comfort and his patience, loyalty, and understanding is what I find remarkable about this relationship. He doesn't rush her into opening up and finally accepting his love, which remedies this sort of nice guys finish last narrative. He doesn't scorn Lola for refusing his initial love and instead choosing abusive lovers over him. He accepts that she might never return his feelings, but continues to take care of her and be a good friend without dangling the "you owe me" over every favor he does for her. There's a lot of healing on Lola's part and understanding on Marco's. The book thoroughly explores what it means to love and be loyal to someone, and it does an incredible job with it. From The Luminous Dead by Caitlin Starlin, M. and Geyer. When I first read the synopsis of this book, I immediately wanted to see these two get together. In fact, that is pretty much the only reason I read this book was to see if they did indeed get together, and spoiler alerts, they do. This book is far from a romance, it's a survival horror with M as Geyer's guide. Geyer and M are the only two tangible characters in the entire book, reinforcing a sense of isolation that pushes these two together. It's the intensity and phases they go through that makes the relationship so intriguing. At the start, they are both using each other for their own personal gains. Geyer wants M's money to get off planet, and M needs a body to go somewhere dangerous. Geyer isn't sure she can trust M after uncovering some of her lies, and M doesn't want to get attached to Geyer because everyone else she has sent on this mission before has died. So she knows more likely than not Geyer is also going to die because of her. At one point, Geyer plans to betray M and expose what she is doing as revenge for everyone who has died before her. And then it evolves into Geyer going out of her way to help M because she wants to free M from this mission. And M just wants to get Geyer out of there because, against her better judgment, she likes Geyer and doesn't want her to die. It's honestly a wild ride, and while their developing relationship isn't the main topic of the book, it definitely supplements the plot. From The Weight of Stars by Kay Ankrum, Brian and Alexandria. This one is an enemies to friends to lovers relationship. I like the tension these two start with and the ways they clash at the beginning. They're both strong personalities, and upon their first interactions, there's so much misunderstanding between them. The book follows this theme of second chances, so it's only appropriate the main relationship of the book follows a similar trend. Needless to say, Ryan and Alexandra get off on the wrong start. Ryan even unintentionally physically hurts Alexandra in the process by causing her to break her arm. What starts off as trying to make things right turns into understanding, compassion, friendship, and romance. I also really appreciate how both our lead-in ladies are described to be butch. It's kind of a pet peeve that the only lesbians I see in media are very traditionally feminine, which of course is true for some lesbians, but it leaves me feeling that the only way lesbians can have representation is if they are still conventionally attractive and consumable. From A Closed and Common Orbit by Becky Chambers. You thought I was done talking about Becky Chambers? You absolute fool! Pepper and Blue. Maybe most of this is based around the headcanon I have, but I am absolutely convinced that Pepper is asexual, and while it's pretty clear that Pepper and Blue are in a relationship with each other, they never kiss or have sex. Of course, that could happen behind the scenes, but Chambers isn't really someone who shies away from stating when characters have a sexual relationship with each other. She never has characters state sexuality identity labels in her book, specifically because in her future, coming out no longer is an aspect of society, and therefore labels aren't necessary. So instead, she expresses sexual identities in characters' actions. Pepper, as a teen, shows confusion and disgust when her parental figure suggests she might have desires for Blue. As an adult, she lives with Blue, and the two sleep in the same bed. However, it's Blue's actions within their adult relationships that make me convinced of this theory. as well as makes this one of my favorite couples. Very attentive to Pepper and her level of comfort. There are tender moments between them, holding hands, forehead kisses, and Blue is usually the one who initiates any sort of physical contact between them. It's subtle and sweet, and you know these two care about each other. Thanks for watching my video. I'd love to hear about your favorite book couples in the comments below. And as usual, if any of these titles pique interest, I recommend shopping from bookshop.org to support independent bookstores. Unfortunately, Not on Fire, Only Dying by Susan Rookheiser is no longer available on bookshop.org, but you can buy it directly from World Split Open Press on Etsy. I'll drop some links below.